Hello? Testing, testing. Hello. Gonna make a better screen thumbnail. Twelve 80 by 720. An existing thumbnail is square and it doesn't work well. I don't know what that is. Photo? This is probably fine. I don't know if we need more DPI or not. Does DPI even matter on a computer? I forget how this works. Like dots per inch. Dots are pixels, right? And inches aren't relevant. So I'll just try it. Okay. Okay. 119:31:26. A fill tool. Yes. Fill tool. I don't know where you're supposed to add your custom. What did I just do? Button. Add current to fill palette. Should I reset this? I don't know. I'll just add whatever I want, I guess. Edit fill. I already have it here. Nope. Okay. RGB sliders. It was 119:31:26. Oh, do this again. 119. Okay. How to fill. Maybe it only fills like sections. Wait, I had to drag? I don't even want a gradient. I just wanted like the paint bucket tool, like the really old thing. And really I just want to set the entire background. It didn't give me choices. Oh, fill mode. Oh. Layer effects? Layer overlay? Does that work? Guess not. Okay, we're making a rectangle. Rectangle complete. That was easier. Theory. Files. I need to change the color of the text. Where is that? Still not visible. I need to go to layers. There we go. Wait, what the hell? I thought my rectangle had a color. There we go. Okay, now we go to my text, and it's white. Font size. Say 64. Okay. Save. Export. JPEG with good quality. Maybe that's better. Got 4 times the file size. I'll try this. Export. That icon. Okay. Alright, we have a stream thumbnail. Is that even the same color? Doesn't look the same to me. They're not the same. I thought I wrote in the exact thing. 119, 31, 20. I don't know what happened, but let's change it. Fill color. 119, 31, 26. Is it not fully opaque or something? It is not displaying the color that is the fill color. So confused. Broke. Change this as well. A rectangle. I'm so confused. Pick one color, get different color. By native values. That's. I don't think it's the rectangle's fault. I think it is the color's fault. This color's like okay, but I had the other one. Felix, do you have a specific question about Kuhn? I don't know what this stuff is. I just want to make it like normal. Maybe this is why it's not working. I thought all you needed was RGB. Can we use? There's some sort of dropper thing, right? I think maybe it doesn't work from other apps. How do you just copy color? I think I'm going to import this into the document. $19.32.26. That's not even quite the same, it changed by 1. Weird, but okay. The dropper? Edit, fill, dropper? I'm extremely unclear on how the dropper thing works. Click or drag to pick color and hold fan to pick into document palette. Oh, okay. Make global. Wait, where are my global colors? This should be easier. Okay, that says I made it global, but then how do I get it here? I don't see document. Okay, now we have document. What on earth does global mean? Because it's certainly not appearing. I just use it somewhere. Maybe it will become a recent? Oh, can I take this rectangle, copy it, and switch? Aha! I moved the color. Which is which? Not highlighting. Okay, this is this one. Needs snapping. Okay, put the text on top. Did I fix it? 119.32.26. I'm gonna call it close enough. think. Oh no. It's different. It's still being weird, like the numbers are not the same. Is there a gradient? No. Maybe I should make a new document and see if it works right. Rectangle. 119, 31, 26. Oh, it's already dark. Whatever the default point here was, I think, is screwing it up. Right, I'm just gonna save this. I think it's good enough. There's my blank one. It's closer. That's weird that I couldn't even get exact colors. I don't know. Okay. Can we do like multiple at once? Edit. Description tags is probably not. Change thumbnail. Save. Go back. Maybe that text is too small. It looks small. Okay. We will make it bigger. Could go a bit bigger still. Not 288 though, so let's try like 188. Seems doable. Export again. I'm gonna change this one name. All text. Okay, that looks better. Alright, almost done with this. It took like half an hour. I don't have a lot of experience with art programs. Usually don't have that much trouble though. Looks like I can change the stream that I'm doing right now. I don't know if that worked or not, but I can always change it after it's done streaming. Um, oh, not that. Wait,
Hi.
did I click on the wrong thing? I want to see if this processed yet. Play. Oh, it's 360p. Okay, I'll make that public later. This is the stream from the other day where I streamed the wrong monitor for half an hour. And I gave up on YouTube's blurring crap, which took like a day to process and then didn't work right. So I just went in Final Cut Pro and fixed it, which was really easy. But yeah, YouTube's video editor thing, like in your browser, is really bad. I was hoping to use YouTube's though, so it would stay as a live stream with the chat attached. But the good news is that I had the chat visible on my screen anyways, so you still have chat. Okay, but don't save that. Email time? Okay. It was literally last on the list. I used everything else more recently, I guess. Okay. Subject, eyesight. Reply. I read this one before. I think I might have something relevant on my laptop open, so I'm gonna check. I guess not. I saw recently some example of just doing something similar years ago. Where he took some issue where there's like reasonably well established knowledge that's not really controversial, then he made up stuff that didn't really make sense. That was really noisy. I think that was an airplane, maybe? It's not the same as how lawyers only argue their side in court. That's like actually their job. It's not a lawyer's job to be objective and even-handed. It's his job to represent his client's interests and take sides and only say things that help his side. That's actually what they're supposed to do. But it's putting on a list, like with the parent stuff, of like people being biased and not objective. And that's not fair to lawyers. Just a second. Okay, I'm back. Alright, so I read the footnote, but now I need to go back and read from here. I crossed out what I read. Oh, trying to get them to overcome objections so they're defending your product. Yeah, that's sort of like reverse psychology or like baiting them. That's kind of manipulative. You have to be careful how you do it because it's not very honest to raise objections that you already know the answer to and then not tell them the answer and like try to get them to think of the answer themselves, but not also not tell them that you're like doing a teaching thing and you already have the answer. You know, if you present it like a real problem that you don't know the answer to, when you do, that would be dishonest. If you present it like, here's a problem some people have, but I know the answer, then the guy's just gonna want you to tell him the answer. He's not gonna think about it himself. So like the dishonesty of pretending you don't actually already have the answer, gets the person to think about it himself more, which is the thing you're trying to accomplish. But it's tricky to get that to happen without being dishonest. I don't know of Goldratt reading Popper or vice versa. Just in the way you worded that, it sounds like each side has two advocates. Yeah, that's true too, that it's more of an even contest. If there are other boards, then all boards are meaningless. That is not true and doesn't make sense. For example, one board could have all the data, and another board could just be like a group of friends, and that wouldn't make the all data board meaningless. Also, if you're the best person who submitted to a particular website, that's not meaningless, even if it's not necessarily the best time in the world. So it's more overreaching, like he's declaring things meaningless when he doesn't know how to evaluate them, but he thinks he can give an evaluation and actually know what he's talking about when he doesn't. On top of that, he thinks there's only one board. I really doubt that's true. I've often seen like multiple competing speedrun websites. Having multiple different leaderboards for the same game is a common thing. A lot of times runners submit all their times to their favorite leaderboard, and then if they get like a really good time, they'll go submit it to other leaderboards that they care less about. But like if they get world record, then they'll go submit it there. As far as I know, they just put everyone up, besides like cheaters. Right, if they're letting a 6-hour time for any percent go up, it's not a good time at all. It's not a competitive time, so yeah, they just take anyone. Right, speedrunning is not super popular, and speedrunning popularity is split across many, many games. So most speedrunners speedrun other games. So let's say that 1 in 1,000 speedrunners speedrun Mario Odyssey, which seems probably high to me. I would think it would be less than 1 in 1,000 as an Odyssey runner as opposed to some other games. Although I'm not that sure because a lot of people run multiple games. But anyways, if it's 1 in 1,000, then that would mean that there were 1.6 million speedrunners. That is like not bad at all for a hobby. It's not like mainstream, but it's a lot of people. As a very loose estimate, I suspect there are over 1 million speedrunners in the world. That's a decent amount. But then for any individual game, you don't get a huge number of people. Most games have, fewer than 100, which is still enough to be competitive and get good times and stuff. Justin, I'm now streaming with 12 megabits per second, which is more than YouTube recommends, given the resolution and frame rate. But hopefully it makes the quality pretty good. And so under 2 hours is a decent start. By the way, Rami calls this ridiculously slow to get 6 hours and 44 minutes, but Just does not have a better time than this. And if Just sat down and did a speed run right now of the whole game, uh, no more practice, just it's go time. Start a new game and time yourself. He might get a slower time than this. I would not be surprised if he got a slower time than this. No pausing, by the way. You can look stuff up during the middle of the game, like you can look at walkthroughs or whatever, but you're not allowed to pause your speed run to go look stuff up. You have to leave the timer running. Anyway, if you get under 2 hours, you're starting to get like decent at the game and know what you're doing a lot more. That's a reasonable like cutoff. That would be a good goal for Just to work towards, is getting an under 2 hour time to get started. Once you get under 2 hours, you'll have a much better idea of what speedrunning is like and what the game is like and what sort of things you'll have to do to improve your time. I would say not very many. I don't think it's that common for people to like speedrun it, get a time that's not terrible, and then not submit it. I mean, I'm sure some people do it, but most people who put like significant effort into speedrunning will bother to submit some of their times. Maybe some people don't have video recording and they don't want to submit without a video. So that can be an issue. I don't know how many people speedrun with no recording and no streaming and nothing like that. Just like I think the ones who got like actually really good will always go get equipment basically. But maybe the more casual people who could get a 90-minute time in Odyssey, some of them might not bother with equipment and recording. Recording, it's not just for showing off your time to other people, it helps you get better. Because you need to watch your own speedruns to see like what mistakes you're making. You can like look over it to see what happened, and help understand what went wrong and why something didn't work if you mess up and so on. Like if you fall down, you can go review the video and be like, the reason I fell and didn't make this jump is I jumped too early. I needed to run a bit further before I started my jump. Something like that. Like reviewing videos really helpful for learning. Chess is an extremely large amount of work to get good at it, and most people who try to get good at chess never get good. Like most chess players are bad. So it's a big part of the community and the culture of chess that most people are bad and stay bad. So one of the big advantages of speedrunning, and a reason I've recommended it to people, is that most people who speedrun a game and actually stick with it for, let's say, a year, which is not long in chess time spans, they actually get pretty good at it. It's very common for speedrunners to get good at it. The success rate of actually getting good is like 80% or something if you keep doing it. Like some people just give up early, but if you actually keep playing, I think it's the significant majority of people get pretty good at the game. Not like world record, not top 10 on the leaderboard, but up there with a good time, like solid player, actually skilled. Whereas with chess, it's like only a small fraction of people are actually really good at it, and most people are like much, much, much worse. Just not competitive at all, nowhere in the ballpark of the good players. Chess is also just a huge game. There's so much to learn. Also, a lot of people find video games more fun than chess. I have not played chess for a long time. I played in scholastic tournaments, like for middle school and high school kids. I won a bunch of trophies. I've had friends and played with GMs, but I'm not at that level and cannot play competitively with a GM. Like I learned enough to be sort of good. Like most people are much, much worse, but there are people who are far better, and I got enough understanding to like have a good idea of what it takes to get to their level and how much work it is, and I decided not to do it. But most people never get anywhere near my skill level at chess, even if they play for decades. I played the London system for a while, and then I was playing some King's Gambit and some Roy Lopez and Open Sicilian. With black, I like the Najdorf Sicilian. And I was playing the Benoni, I think it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was playing the Benoni last time I checked with black against d4. I spent more time changing my anti-d4 openings around. Early on, I played the French defense. Some of these are weird. Where's just like the basic one? Or standard one? Oh, modern Benoni. Uh, I don't think I don't know how to pronounce it, but Gyoko piano thing? I don't think it's very popular or considered that good, as far as I know. I've played like the Scotch game too. For some reason, they teach that 3 bishop c4 to beginners a lot. But the Roy Lopez is more forcing, like it pressures black. I don't have a strong opinion about it. I played the Slav and King's Indian with black against d4, but I didn't like them that much. I think I was playing the version where you exchange on d4 and you get imbalanced pawn structure. No. No for particle physics. Yeah, do something like that. That's not really an FI question. Like, you can ask FI, but FI should probably not be your main resource for figuring out eyesight improvement. Like, your main resource should be Googling it and looking at a variety of websites or maybe getting some books about it. If you want better info, sometimes books help. over websites, in my experience. And you can also check forums, but this particular question, maybe that's not a great idea. There are a lot of questions where I'll like add Reddit to my Google search and go find people talking about it. Oh yeah, I hate the product reviews, like quote reviews, where they just take like 10 popular products and make a list of them and then write a basic paragraph of info about each one, and they have no real opinions or knowledge about it. And I think they just want Amazon affiliate links. They're just hoping you'll buy any of them, they don't care. Like real reviewers actually form opinions about which are good by doing work to compare them. Well, if you're not interested in the stream, then that is your decision. I guess he missed the part where I asked a clarifying question about what he said. It's probably because I didn't see his question right away because it was on Discord. Oh, this isn't on stream. I didn't see his first question right away because it was on Discord, and then by the time I replied, I think he might have left already and given up. Because he didn't put it in the YouTube chat. Anyway, Discord's fine, but I might see it like slower. You can use Discord if you want to bypass the 200 character limit, or sometimes YouTube blocks URLs, so you can use it for that, or just if you prefer it. But if you want me to see the Discord and I miss it, just say something in YouTube chat that I should check Discord. Oh, and my main comment about that was just he didn't give any like specifics. Like, is there an idea of Coon or Popper that he wants to know how good it is or why it's good or bad or whatever? Like, he just didn't pick any particular idea that he wanted to know something about, so I didn't really have anything to say. Oh, and also, if you want to know about Coon and Popper, there's some material on it in the Fabric of Reality. The 10 item ones, they're the worst of reviews, but I find them useful sometimes, just for finding what the options are and then going to the website of each of the options myself. Sometimes if you find one of those lists, it's easier than Googling to find all the options. The normal term for this is not main subject, it's simple subject. Because you're like simplifying the subject by leaving words out. Okay, this is a weird question. Doesn't it answer like what? Anyway, yeah, I think than introduces a comparison. A standard is sort of like a comparison, but I don't find it clear. Cooler means more cool, cool to a larger degree. And then a larger degree than what? So it gives you a comparison. I used to play e4, e5 as black for a while, the Petrov, and I played the Petrov defense, but I entirely stopped playing it when I learned the Najdorf Sicilian, which I like. And yeah, I have not played chess for like 15 years basically. Paid YouTube money for stream audio and background? I'm not sure what you mean, Justin, but I could play music if I wanted to with OBS. Oh, you're on your phone and you want my stream's audio be in the background, meaning that you're in a different app on your phone, but you can still hear me talking. I get it. And YouTube made that a subscription feature, and it apparently doesn't work with Safari or other things, I guess. I know it works with Twitch. You can like leave the Twitch app and you can still hear Twitch while you're doing other stuff on your phone. I don't know if streaming on Twitch would be better than this or not. I just picked YouTube because Twitch is so gaming oriented. But I know they have like a just talking category now. Oh, the YouTube DJ thing sounds like the multi-Twitch website that lets you watch multiple Twitch streams at the same time in one browser window. Okay, so I still need to read this. Yeah, second element in a comparison. This is actually the same dictionary. The Lexico thing said powered by Oxford, and this is the new Oxford dictionary. Oh yeah, I don't know about this, whether you're supposed to call it an adjective or an adverb when it modifies a verb playing a noun role. It doesn't sound like that important of a distinction to me, so I haven't thought about it a lot. In general, yes. I'm kind of skimming a bit. Right, they need something to allow there to be two clauses, but a relative pronoun is one of the things that allows two clauses. A conjunction is another thing, and a semicolon is a third thing. So you need something, but it doesn't have to be a conjunction. It can be good to try it your own way first, because then you have like your own thoughts about it. A lot of times, see, part of why people have trouble reading books and they don't learn much is they don't do their own thinking. They just read the book version and they hear all the answers and they nod their head and they've never really thought about it themselves. Whereas if they think about the topic themselves and then they use the book knowledge or someone else's opinions for corrections and additional points and clarifications, it can work better. Like, you need your own version. Like, think about the issue yourself. What would your answer to it be? Use that as a starting point and then modify it based on what you learn from books is often a lot more effective than just don't think about it at all and try to stick the book's idea straight into your head. That's actually really important. I'm going to write that down. I don't think I said it quite like that before. Oh, it says 6 viewers now. Hi, everyone. Another good point about doing your own thinking first is you can have a before and after comparison. So if you have like, my initial idea is X, then I read the book, and now I think Y, you can look at what is different. What did you change your mind about? Whereas if you don't have any initial ideas of your own and then you read the book, there's no like change log. There's no here's what I actually learned that changed my mind for comparison, which makes it a lot harder to like keep track of what you learned. Like a list of things I changed my mind about is sort of like a clear outcome from the book. Whereas if it's just like, I learned all the things in the book because I didn't know anything and now I know all the things, that's a lot more vague. Then if you can point out, like, here are the 3 things I was wrong about and now I'm no longer wrong about. Newen, Justin is on mobile. I'm assuming you're talking about desktop, although maybe you're not, I don't know. But nightlies don't sound like a thing available on iOS at least. He's iOS, maybe they're on Android. But the App Store like only lets you update periodically for apps. So I don't think nightlies would exist there. Android, okay. Well, Firefox still might work on iOS, it just wouldn't be updated quite as often. But maybe it'd be worth a try. On iOS though, all browsers use the Safari rendering engine WebKit, if I remember right. They're basically just like different user interfaces, but there's only really one browser made by Apple. So if it doesn't work in Safari, it might not work in other ones. I don't know if that's something they can actually change or not. And internet, that's a bit of a negative conclusion. Like, maybe you just don't like thinking about economics. Yeah, Justin, iCab Mobile would be just like extra features piled on top of Safari, basically. It's not just like a completely custom browser. That is my understanding, at least. You could look it up and check. Anyway, internet. So it could be related to economics. Like, it might not apply to other topics. You might like thinking about something else better, but you're not really engaged with econ, or you don't know how to think about econ very well. But if it was something else, you'd know better how to think about it and be more productive. Like, a lot of times people don't like thinking very much because they're not being effective. Like, they're having a hard time and they don't know how to fix it or what to do. Whereas if their thoughts were effective and they were like learning a lot, they'd have a good time and they'd like it. And switching topics is one of the ways to make your thinking more effective, because you can switch from a topic you're bad at or don't know much about to one you're good at or know a lot about. A lot of people generally like stick to the same hobbies and the same interests and activities and whatever for a long time because they don't like learning new things. Like, they find it hard to get involved with a new thing, whereas they're more comfortable with the stuff they already know about, and they're happy to think about that because they've already gotten over the hump of getting started, which is what they found they didn't like. Another really relevant thing is motivation. Like, how much do you care about economics? Are you really motivated to learn it? Is that an important goal to you? How much do you value having a good understanding of economics? If the answers to that are kind of low or not very much, then it wouldn't seem very appealing to you to spend a ton of time on it just to get something that's not that important to you. Where what you want to get is like really important things you'd put a lot of time into, or if it's not that important to you, maybe just a little time would be worth it, but not a lot. It's possible to like find out reasons economics is important and like increase your opinion of it and value it higher. But it's also possible to do that with many other subjects, and in some cases, you already have a high opinion of something. Narrow and limited problem than that. I don't recall what my alternative to prediction markets was. I vaguely recall probably saying something negative about them, but I don't specifically remember what it was. Certainly, current prediction markets are not very developed. Like, a lot of them are small and don't have very much money involved, and not a lot of people involved. And then the other thing with current prediction markets, I think, is that there's a lot of non-explanation. It's just people are sort of betting, and the prediction is just whoever will bet the most for either side. But there's no like attempt to discuss the ideas and seek the truth. So it's missing something that critical discussion has that's really important. Which doesn't mean it's useless, but it limits its value as a tool. Yeah, I think possessives are adjectives. Like Sarah's hat tells you which hat. It might still have some sort of noun property. That wouldn't shock me. But you cannot say a Sarah's hat. You can't stick a determiner in front of it like that. Yep. Well, her is like a special. See, her is defined as a possessive determiner as one of its meanings. So in this case, it's not exactly a pronoun, it's just like a pronoun because it refers to something, but it also makes it possessive, so it changes it into a determiner, which is a type of adjective. Well, it's both. Like, it replaces a noun, but it also makes it possessive, so it's doing two jobs, I think. There is not a noun. I think that's your problem. Okay, yeah, Anne got the same conclusion after some research. Yeah, this makes sense to me. Well, there's nothing wrong with possessive determiner, it's just extra details. Possessives are a notable enough category that specifying them is a reasonable thing to do, but it depends on your goal or, what kind of information you want to provide. Yes. That is why the word her has two different definitions with different parts of speech in the dictionary. My thought is, sure, do that, try it, see how it goes. Does that need a reply? Like, that, where you have a possessive CIA? Yeah, it's a proper adjective. I mean, who cares what you call it? I don't think it's hard to understand, particularly. This did seem to be getting better at grammar. I noticed that over his posts. Oh, that's good that he's liking it more, that he's getting into it. That's pretty low in my opinion, especially for someone who's trying to do intellectual stuff. But it might work, people vary. That's generally mostly a good thing. The only bad part is it can mean that you're getting overly tired. Less than 7? I don't know what you're saying, Justin. Oh, hours of sleep. I get it. I don't track my sleep, but I think that I average like a little over 8, probably. Like, I don't properly track it, but I have some idea of what it is. Yeah, I have that app. I've used it a couple of times. That's the one with the really nice wake up alarm that will pick like the time for when to wake you up, and it has nice music that it escalates, I think. So I think I just used it for alarms mostly, which I don't use very often, but occasionally. I like the concept that it tries to detect like when is a good time to wake you up when you're not in deep sleep within like a half hour of leeway. Because I don't, even when you need to wake up with an alarm, it's usually not an exact time that you need. That there's this thing in his head that's causing him to say and think things, called a meme, and it has some control over him, and it just controlled him. Like, he doesn't consciously understand why he did this, but he did it anyways. There's something that caused that that's inside him, and he doesn't. It made him a puppet in this little respect, in this way. For a little while, he was a puppet, and there are other times he's a puppet too. This is just one example. So he was the puppet of this thing that controlled him that he doesn't understand. And I don't think he quite sees it that way and like realizes that that's a significant thing. Like, that's something important. Admittedly, it's like common and it might not be the highest priority for him, but the fact that like that happens to people, that they just do things and they don't know why, they don't understand what's going on. They don't have very good control over their lives. People kind of assume that they have a lot of control over their lives, more than they actually do. And so Justin picked up on this and like noticed it was a notable thing and asked about it. And just answers were not very good. But the second one, this one, gave some actual info that like I'm not sure why I said it in my head. Like, that is actually the key info. But this doesn't seem to stand out to Just. I don't think he thought this was important. Some problems with land value tax are it's hard to evaluate the value of land accurately. Often land hasn't been sold for quite a long time. So it doesn't always have like a fluid market that's setting like current up-to-date accurate prices on everything, because things will just not change hand for many years. And then on top of that, land prices can fluctuate a lot based on government regulations, stuff like zoning regulations or rent control. So how much taxes you have to pay could be significantly affected by, which can make your taxes like unpredictable. And then I think it's hostile to uses of land that are like less condensed. Like ranching is using a lot of land and it's not getting a huge amount of value per acre. So maybe it's kind of hostile to that, although you could say that that land is lower value by far compared to a small piece of land an apartment building is on, maybe, just because of location. Oh, but then the other thing I wanted to say is, if we're just talking about land, it doesn't involve, say, the value of the building on the land. So that's, improvements to land are in general most of the value of the land. Even on like a ranch or a farm, they have a lot of improvements to land. It's not just like the raw wilderness of nature. It's not a jungle. There's no wild animals or whatever. Or no big ones, probably. Just having like irrigation ditches, let alone actual buildings. Most of the value is in the things humans added to the land, not the land itself. And if you're going to tax those, then it's kind of like an asset tax or wealth tax. Um, I think I can do one bigger. Two bigger was like really big. I know land taxing came up as a single tax. There was some guy who was advocating it like 200 years ago. I forgot the name, but I looked into this a bit. And it was criticized or commented on by someone I like. Maybe it was Hazlitt. If not that, it could have been like Mises or Riesman or Rothbard or someone. Demand for money comes from the utility of money. Yeah, Henry George, that sounds right. Okay, yeah, so whatever Mises said, I think I found persuasive. I'm probably just partly remembering what Mises said. There's probably something about it on FI. Henry. Or not. Am I searching wrong in some way? I don't think that was working. Let's just kill that search. Mises, Henry. I don't know, I forgot where it came up. Anyway, demand for money comes from utility of money. Money is useful because it avoids the double coincidence of wants problem, which is the problem that I have corn and I want teddy bears. And you have teddy bears, but you don't want corn, you want peas and broccoli. So I can't trade you corn for teddy bears. So what we need is something that can be traded to approximately everyone. So I can trade you money for teddy bears, and I can trade my corn to someone else for money. Money lets you trade when only one person wants what the other person has, instead of both wanting something that each other have. Sure, you can use money to pay for security guards. But the basic demand for money is that you can pay for anything with it. People want like universal commodities. So this is covered, I really like it in whatchamacallit. It's the Hazlitt novel. Time Will Run Back, I think. Yeah, this one, Time Will Run Back. It's also covered by Mises in like Theory of Money and Credit, among other places. But in Hazlitt's novel, it was like a communist society, and then they started making some changes to reinvent capitalism. And they had like ration cards where you got issued your rations, that you got like 3 cans of beans and a pound of butter and 20 cigarettes or whatever. And you get your rations every week, and you could just go turn in your rations, and you were stuck with whatever you were given by the government. And so one of the reforms was to allow a market in ration cards, where you could trade your ration cards for other people's ration cards. So you could say, I don't need more shoes, I will trade you my shoes for some cigarettes. So people created a market, a place where multiple people would go to try to trade ration cards. Oh, taxes are not about protecting land in particular. The government also protects people, and it also does a lot of other things, or else taxes would be way lower. It's totally non-obvious that taxes should be related to how much land you have versus, for example, how many people are in your family. Like maybe if you have more kids, you should pay higher taxes because the government is now protecting a larger number of people. Or maybe if you have a larger plot of land, you should pay more taxes. Or maybe if, or maybe it should just be an equal tax per family or per generation of the family. Like if you have 3 kids or 1 kid, it's the same. There's a lot of ways to look at that. I don't know, it's not clear. I think the important thing is that it can be error corrected and improved if there's some major problem being caused by the current system. It's also non-obvious whether taxes should be percentage based. Like currently we have progressive taxes where not only is it percentage based, but it goes up if you make higher income. But even like a 10% flat tax is questionable. Maybe taxes should be, $10,000 a year. That's it. Everyone pays $10,000 in taxes because everyone is getting roughly the same service from the government of national defense and police and courts. And especially that would make sense if there were more usage fees, like if you actually had to pay a use fee when you went to court. Or maybe the police could charge usage fees to people who call the police frequently or something. Like it might be you got, 3 police incidents per year based on your taxes, but then if you're using the police more than that, if you're a heavy user, then you've gone over your allotment and have to pay some extra, which is different than just having a higher tax rate in some ways, because it's based on what you're actually using. Same thing with roads. As long as they're government owned, it would be reasonable for heavy road users to pay some extra money as a usage fee rather than just a generic tax. They do that in indirectly, sort of, with gasoline taxes, which is making people who use the roads more pay more tax. Anyway, another thing you can do with a percentage tax on income is cap it. So you can say you have to pay 10% of your income, but the most tax you can possibly pay is $100,000, because at that level of paying taxes, you've already paid enough to the government for everything. Like the government's not going to give you more stuff if you pay more. They have that with payroll taxes in the US currently. So for Social Security and Medicare, they cost approximately 15% of your income, but you only pay them on the first like 100K of your income or so. And then if you make more income, those taxes go away because you've already made your full contribution. Anyway, there's a lot of different systems, but going back to money, they had the market where they could trade their ration cards for cigarettes, shoes, food, etc. And then they would go wait in line at the government distribution centers to get the stuff with the cards they now had after trading. And so people started putting up like large whiteboards or signs or whatever where they would list prices, where they would say 3 pounds of corn trades for 2 pounds of butter. And they would list every single thing you could trade in terms of every other single thing you could trade. Like every type of ration card there is would have a price in terms of every other ration card. There's a ratio between any two ration cards. And that was like complicated and hard to keep track of because there were too many different things to trade. And what happens is you realize that the prices can be like, the ratios don't have to make sense. Like you could have a pound of butter trades for 10 pounds of corn, and a pound of corn trades for 100 cigarettes, and 1 cigarette trades for a pound of butter. And then you'd be like making infinite money if you kept doing those trades. Like you'd end up with more than you started with by trading in a circle. That would mean the prices don't make sense. Something is trading not according to its proper value. So what you end up doing is listing prices in terms of just a few common things to keep it simpler. So instead of the ratio of corn to every single other type of ration card, you just take a few common ones, the ones that get traded the most, like say cigarettes, alcohol, and shoes, hypothetically. And you list the prices of everything in terms of those common goods that are in high demand by a lot of people and get traded a lot. And then it simplifies things and it's easier to keep track of and make the ratios all make sense. And then over time, quite possibly it will simplify down to just one price. Everything will trade in terms of cigarettes. You look at the ratios to cigarettes. So it's like, if you want to trade corn for butter, you find out that corn is worth 10 cigarettes and butter is worth 20 cigarettes. So you need to trade 2 corns for a butter. Using the intermediary of cigarettes, even if you're trading corn for butter directly with no cigarettes involved, is a way to simplify the market prices. And then on top of that, you can now just trade for cigarettes because you know you'll be able to trade them again later. So you're like, I don't need this corn, but I don't particularly want anything right now. What should I do? I will trade my corn for cigarettes, and then later I can get whatever I want with cigarettes because they're popular enough. Even non-smokers will take them because they know they can trade them again later. And the result of this is that more people are trading for cigarettes. In other words, there's a higher demand for cigarettes, which causes the price of cigarettes to go up. The value of cigarettes goes up because of their utility as a medium of exchange. They have now a second value. You can smoke them, but you can also exchange them. So people want them more, so their price goes up. And so that is basically what money is. And in the real world, the goods that worked the best for money in practice were gold and silver for a variety of reasons, including hard to counterfeit, stores really well, doesn't deteriorate over time. You can have a pretty high value of it in a small amount of weight and size, and some various other things. Cigarettes have been used, though, in jails and certain other situations as money when people couldn't have gold and silver. So that's where the value of money comes from. You don't have to generate demand for money, like it generates itself because it helps solve the problem of organizing the market better and making it easier to trade. A resource no one initially owns is sometimes called a natural resource. Or just an unowned resource would be fine. The general liberal theory for unowned resources is that you earn ownership of them by adding value to them. E.g., you find some unoccupied land and you build a home and a farm there, and now you own it because it is inseparable from the improvements that you personally created. And the other thing to know about initial ownership is it's not super important in general, because most of the value of stuff is not naturally occurring in nature. Like, most of the value comes from human work and effort and improving things. And on top of that, the market is self-correcting in various ways. Like, if the wrong people have wealth, then to some approximation, they will make bad business decisions, while less wealthy people will make good business decisions, and wealth will change hands. And the better, cleverer people will gain control over more resources, while the people who are misusing resources and squandering them will end up with control over less resources over time. There's a trend in that direction. Oh, it's partly processed. Usually it just goes straight from 360 to max quality, in my experience. I think it's partly processed. I think I uploaded it 1080. I hope. Actually, I'm not sure that I did. Oh no, it is 720. Okay, I had to download this one off YouTube and then fix it in Final Cut Pro. So I guess I lost resolution. Well, it's readable. Not the best, but it'll do. Okay, edit video. I read this as banking at first, and I was like, that doesn't sound like a good thing to have screw ups. But baking makes more sense. You're just ruining like $10 worth of food or whatever. Okay, this is my own stream. I wanted to check if there were quality options while I was streaming. Oh, there are. Cool.
Okay, this is my own
So I
stream.
can stream at a fairly high bit rate. And if someone's on mobile, they can pick a lower quality.
I can stream at a fairly high bit rate.
And if someone's one thing about this email is it's way too long and complicated for just. Like, if the goal is Justin talking to himself and thinking about things himself, it's fine. But if the goal is actually to help Just, it's this is not what he needs. It's like way too much text. He's not great at understanding things. You can't dump this much info on him and expect it to be really helpful. And that is something that you should probably label if you're in a back and forth with Just, like multiple times like this. He's gonna expect that what you say is like personalized for him, customized for him, stuff that he should be like listening to, thinking about, and doing. But if it's not intended that way, it would be good to say so. Just as like a brief label, like these are my own thoughts, they're a mess or they're too complicated or whatever. Like, just shouldn't worry about them too much, you know, something like that, if that's your intention. If it's not your intention, I think that this is not going to work that well for Just. In general, we value things by what the second highest bidder was willing to pay, approximately, because the highest bidder doesn't have to make his max bid. Like, if I was willing to pay $100 for something, but no one else would pay over 50, then I'm only going to bid like $51. So that's the standard way prices work. The problem with that for land is like most land is not being bid on at most times. It's not like it doesn't have like a store price. Like, you can go into Walmart and see what various things cost, and those prices are like pretty competitive and getting updated a lot for like what does a can of soup cost or whatever. But land prices are not as accurate as soup prices, I guess. I'm not surprised that lefties want to get rid of social security tax. And it's funny when the word curie is in other words and highlights. I don't know what why not refers to. There's like a bit of a delay, maybe 10 seconds or 5, I don't know, between when I talk and when you hear me talk. Oh, because There's more of a competitive market for soup. Like, the soups are always trying to sell themselves in the store. If soup is not selling on a Walmart store shelf, then it is taking up shelf space and it's being wasted. Walmart is always monitoring what stuff sells, and they will take things off the shelves that don't sell well enough. There's ongoing price adjustments and product replacements at places like Walmart. Whereas with land, someone can just own a piece of land for a century, and no one ever really worries about what the price is, besides the government. The government, in terms of property taxes, what they do varies, but in some cases they actually base it on like what the land cost when you bought it. And if you bought it like 100 years ago, your property taxes can be super low. And it doesn't make much sense, but it's because they don't really know how to reevaluate the land very well. You can get a like a real estate agent to come and make an estimate of like, what do I think this land would sell for. And if it's a standard thing, it's just like a house in a city and there are many other houses that sold recently, then they can make like a sort of decent estimate. But that's not just land price, that's land price plus house price. Like, most of that is the improvements on the land, not the land itself. But then there are parcels of land that are less comparable to other ones. So there might be nothing similar that was sold anytime recently. Especially because their land is very location sensitive. So there has to have been like a similar piece of land sold in a similar location recently in order to get a decent estimate of the current price. Also with stores, they obscure the bidding process a bit because they just have set prices. You don't actually negotiate the price with them. And you certainly don't have an auction because there's enough for everyone who wants to buy it, to some approximation of retail goods in general. And they're just doing that to lower transaction costs and make it simpler. So they just guess what a good price is, and then anyone willing to pay that or more buys it, and the other people just don't buy it. See, the second highest bidder thing applies when there's one of something, like a unique painting. But if there's multiple of something, like if there's 10 of something, then they could sell for what the 11th highest bidder would pay. Because the 10 people who will buy the thing that there exists 10 of in the world, they only have to outcompete everyone else besides the top 10. As long as the price is a little bit higher than the 11th guy is willing to pay, then the 10 people will all get one. Like, that's the point of bidding up prices, is to exclude other people, to say I want it more than them. So I'm going to pay a price that excludes them from the market. If the market price is too low for things with limited quantities, then someone who cares about it less than you can get it. So if you care more, you want to outbid them to the point that it's not worth it to them to buy it. And that way the goods get allocated to the people who value them higher. But cans of soup are not in short supply, so that's not so much of an issue. The price of a can of soup, though, it's not based on, what would I be willing to pay, or what would someone who values soup really highly be willing to pay. It's based on, like, they want to sell, say, 1 million cans of soup, or say 2 million cans of soup to 1 million people. So then they wonder, like, how low do I have to make the price for 1 million different people to buy 2 cans each? And then they set the price based on that. So it's sort of like an auction, but it's going way, way down. And also they're just estimating instead of running the actual auction. Most land just isn't actually being bid on very often. Like, most potential land buyers are not thinking about what would I pay for this land. Like, most people don't want to move right now. And most land isn't available, so they don't want to waste their time like researching it and stuff. So you just get a lot less pricing info about land because there's less transactions happening and less interest in it compared to retail goods that get mass produced and huge amounts get sold. Right, so these doubts were not a refutation. He didn't come up with a reason that couldn't be right. He didn't actually settle the conflict of ideas in a truth-seeking way. He just, for whatever reason, dismissed out of hand one of the ideas and decided to ignore it. So he wasn't doing paths forward type stuff. Land is somewhat unique in general. Like, it depends on the city. There's like suburbs where they make a bunch of houses that are actually basically the same. In a lot of places, like, the houses vary a bit and the locations vary a bit. Locations always vary at least a little bit, and that can matter because, like, you might want to live next door to a particular person. So even an identical house, like 3 blocks away, might be less valuable to you. That's a reasonably small effect. The main issue with land prices, I think, is just that there's less buying and selling going on, so there's less information and knowledge being created about it. And also, if you're taxing like buildings and stuff, it's like a major wealth tax. It becomes a similar kind of thing to a savings account tax. Like, the more money you have in the bank, the more taxes you pay. Like, the land you own and the improvements on it, the buildings or whatever, are a type of wealth. And if you're taxing existing wealth every year rather than income, it's problematic. Because, like, suppose you're just draining people. You're not taking a proportion of, like, what they create. You're taking a proportion of what they already have constantly. You would also discourage, if you're taxing, like, the value of buildings, you would discourage building. People would put more money into other things, like they'd have, a really nice computer in a shitty building, so their taxes would be lower. They'd get things that don't count as building, like nice rugs, to make up for the building itself being worse. Like, they'd do a bunch of additions to the building that don't count as part of the building. Taxing what people have also punishes success, but in an even worse way, I think. So if you have like a 10% flat tax, you're not really punishing success, arguably, because on their first dollar, when they're not very successful, they keep 90 cents, and on their last dollar, like their millionth dollar, which is high success, they're also keeping 90 cents of that dollar. Progressive taxes punish success. It's arguable that flat taxes punish success, because you could say that the most services you'll get from the government is maybe $20,000 a year, supposedly, hypothetically. In which case, if you pay any taxes above 20,000, it could be said that you're being punished for success. You're paying extra just because you were successful. Because taxing what they have dissipates fortunes. It's okay. Suppose that you make $100 a year, for simplicity, and you save 50% of it. So every year you're saving $50. With an income tax of 10%, every year you save $50, you spend $40, and you pay $10 of taxes. However, with a wealth tax of a wealth tax will escalate because your savings goes up every year. So the first year, the average amount of savings you'll have during the year is $25, half of your total, because you got to $50 saved by the end of the year, so your average during the year is 25. So in the first year, you pay taxes on $25 of wealth. In the second year, it's 75 because you have the 50 you saved last year, which you're getting taxed on a second time, as well as the average of 25 that you saved in the second year. Then the third year, you're going to pay taxes on 125. In the fourth year, you're going to pay taxes on 175, and so on. It's actually a bit less because you'll have lost more to, like, I'm not factoring in what you lose to taxes. But basically, yeah, the more wealth you accumulate, the more tax you pay every single year. So it's escalating in a way that is harsher than an income tax. Like, it's punishing savings. And savings in certain forms, at least, is extremely important. It's one of the worst things you can punish, because the basic way that we raise our standard of living is by accumulating more capital in the form of things like tools and factories. Capital goods rather than consumption goods. So if we tax capital goods related wealth, that's one of the worst things we can do if we're like disincentivizing that. If we make a tax system where the more you consume, like the less taxes you pay, then we're going to eat our seed corn and it's going to suck. An income tax is like reasonably neutral on that. A wealth tax that included, say, factory buildings or office buildings would be discouraging business investment. If it was just like personal homes, then it could work better. The personal homes people live in are like somewhat proportional to income, but I think taxing someone's personal home rather than their income itself would be more biasing, because if you tax income, it's sort of neutral to what you buy. Like, you can buy whatever you want. You can spend more on your home or more on your computer or more on your car or whatever else, and the income tax doesn't care. And it's also neutral to what your profession is and a variety of other things. Whereas if we had a tax on personal homes for personal use, then it would encourage people to live in cheaper homes and spend more money on cars, computers, food, whatever else. So it would be biasing what people spent money on, even within the consumption category, even if we kept it away from business stuff. So that would be a downside. I think one of the main reasons property taxes get used is related to local stuff. Like, a school district will put property taxes on people in the area to pay for the schools, because the schools are provided to people in the area. It's a local service being paid for with local taxes. I'm not saying that's a good idea. Like, maybe they should just have local income taxes or sales taxes instead. Taxing the unimproved value of land would, I think that would highly punish things that use a lot of land. Because, like, ranches would be punished while skyscrapers would be incentivized. Like, you want to pack as much value as you can into less land. Like, you want more improvements per amount of actual land. If I remember right, the idea with the land tax from Henry George was to only tax the unimproved value of the land in order to equalize things. The concept was something like, there's farmland of the first quality that lets people make such and such an income farming. And then if there's enough people and we run out of that type of land, some people have to farm on land of the second quality, and they're going to be able to produce fewer crops or less valuable crops for the same amount of effort. And the idea is roughly that's unfair, and if you taxed land of the first quality by the difference in its added productivity, then you would be like evening the playing field while also giving an income to the government. And it's not just land quality, but also, I guess, transportation distance to market would matter here. Which that's not transportation distance to market, like location stuff is not really a inherent value of the land thing because it's related to where we put cities, but it is an important thing. And anyways, then as the country got more populous and people started farming on, say, 5th degree land, then the taxes on the first degree land would go up, and then the 2nd degree land would be taxed, and so would the 3rd and 4th. So that after taxes, people are indifferent to which quality of land they own. Something like that. One problem with that is the unimproved value of the the difference in like productivity of the land depends on what you're doing. So like you can imagine what I was just talking about with when it's only farming. If some of the land is going to be converted into other uses, then how do you even everything out with taxes to make it fair when some land is being used for mills or factories or homes or whatever, rather than it just being that like this soil is 10% more fertile than that soil, which results in an extra 100 watermelons per year, which have a value of $100, so the government taxes $100. There's probably other problems with it, so like see Rothbard or Mises or whatever. Also, if you're just trying to even out the productivity of land after taxes, I don't think that's going to bring in enough taxes for like a modern welfare state, not even close. It might be possible to be enough for like national defense or something. I have no idea. But if you want to support anything like modern governments, you need to basically be taking a significant percentage of like the whole economy all the time. Because our government spends so much fucking money. In broad terms, I live in America because I was born in America, and I've always lived in America, and I do not have adequate reason to move. Like, moving is a huge hassle and a huge cost. So some other place has to be like way better or it's not worth moving. Some other countries that I would have some interest in if I were to move to another country would be Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan. Also, maybe Israel or the UK. That's not at all a complete list of like where might be decent to live, but those are some I know offhand. within the US, a major factor is weather, in my opinion. For a lot of people, a big factor is their job. But I work online, so I don't have to locate myself near an employer. Well, where in Canada gets into what I was just saying about weather being an important factor. So I don't like being cold, and I don't like being snowed on a bunch. So the best place in Canada to not be cold and snowed on is the Vancouver area. It's as far south as you can get and as far west as you can get, and that's the least cold. There are other major weather factors like humidity, tornadoes, hurricanes, bugs, mosquitoes. There's also stuff like earthquakes to worry about. There's whether you want to live in a major city or not. I think it's good to at least live near a major city. You want to have good internet and you want to be able to like drive into town and access all those services. But whether you actually want to live like inside the major city or just near it is an open question. Outside tends to be cheaper. And so if you spend a lot of time at home on your computer, then it can be like a money saver. Whereas if you're like, if you want to go to nightclubs or hang out with people in person who just like live in the same city as you, like do a bunch of social get-togethers, then living in the big city has value. Like if you're in the big city, it'll be easier to go on OkCupid or Meetup.com and find stuff and not have to travel as much. Or like sports activities, like you can join amateur sports leagues and you're gonna find more of those closer the more of a densely populated area it is. So Berkeley is left-wing, like a lot. So if you wanted to actually like have conversations with intelligent people with reasonable ideas, I would not recommend Berkeley. Berkeley is they've had like Antifa in the streets and the police are not on your side. They don't protect people. UC Berkeley has like not let conservatives speak there recently, like Ann Coulter and David Horowitz, I think, were blocked from speaking, and maybe Milo was too. Stuff like that is like really bad. Like that's a fucked up situation, and it's a lot of the people in charge, like the mayor, the police chief, and the regents of the university. It's like people like that in authority are actually doing really bad things. The city of Berkeley is dirty. There's a lot of homeless people. This is caused by city policies. They don't let you have styrofoam and plastic bags. They're like taking plastic bags away from grocery stores. And they're forcing stores to charge bag charges for paper bags as well to try to make people bring their own bags. So they won't even let stores give you free bags in various cases, even of the type of material they want to force on people. It's all like stupid nonsense. Berkeley also has rent control, so the prices are quite high and there's a shortage of housing. And they also, like San Francisco and various others, do a lot to discourage building new housing. People who plan to be on the first seasteads would be like really libertarian, I would guess. Although I'm not a huge fan of them, that sounds a lot better than Berkeley Marxist environmentalists. I think that if you have really high quality standards for who you hang out with, the internet is the best place. It gives you access to way more people. Like, I would rather talk with the people on the Fallible Ideas list than talk with the people in any particular city in the world. Like, I think I can get better quality that way than if I was forced to find people in my city to replace all the people I found on the internet. I know you can have like some of each, but I'm particularly quality sensitive, I think. So I mostly don't want to deal with people in person if they're worse. Like, even there are some advantages to in person, but I care more about quality in general. Berkeley does have some of the best weather in the entire US, though. It's not just Berkeley, but California has terrible local government, like for the state. I think they have like some of the highest taxes in the country, and are have like a huge budget deficit, and they have a variety of stupid policies that make things worse. Like, one I just happened to find out about the other day is California has a bunch of rules about LED light bulbs that, like, some can't be sold there and some of them are more expensive and blah blah blah. So that sucks. So yeah, Berkeley is one of the worst local governments, and then you're also have one of the worst state governments as well. Uh, Seasteads. Well, I would think that like shipping costs would be a problem, and like basically a seastead is not near a major city, so transportation costs would be a problem. Like, I don't even want to live on Hawaii because like your Amazon delivery is going to be worse, and your internet's going to be worse, I think. I'm guessing that UP Berkeley was supposed to be UC Berkeley, like the university. And yeah, it absolutely gets government funding, and they're absolutely they ought to be like sued and stuff. I think they were sued, but I forgot what happened. But a lot of the judges are like super left-wing biased. Like, I just saw the other day that in Ann Coulter's new column, I saw that the Nick Sandman case, the judge just said some ridiculous super biased stuff and threw the case out. Hopefully it gets appealed. Nick Sandman is the Covington Catholic guy who the media just like smeared and libeled. So he was suing for like defamation stuff. And the judge was just like, I don't care, fuck you. I mean, he didn't say it like that, but it wasn't really much of a better response than that. If you're interested in that, I thought Coulter's column was particularly good, so I'll get it. Oh, Berkeley's probably a sanctuary city too. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of sanctuary cities in California. And I'm sure they're like hostile to having a gun. I don't know the exact rules. It's also like, if you own a home in Berkeley and you want to build a shed in your backyard or something, you have to like go ask permission from the bureaucrats. There's a lot of bureaucracy just to do things and like live your life. Like, you own your land, but you don't really fully own it. Like, the government has a lot of control over what you do on your own property. That's like widespread in major cities in general, but Berkeley is, on the worst end of the spectrum. So yeah, my main concern with a seastead is there need to be like a lot of people there and then ongoing transportation so that there is like mass transportation, like lots of goods being shipped there at once so that the prices go down and the delivery frequency goes up. And then once it got like more equivalent to a major city, then I might be more interested in it. But I think just having, standard access to the economy and like the goods that get produced and are available from Amazon and Walmart and grocery stores and so on is nice. Like I like the stuff that our society produces. And I want it at, roughly regular prices and with roughly regular delivery times or wait times or whatever. Also, I have no idea what the seastead like boats will be like. Like, will people get seasick, or will it be like really, really stable and have, dirt and parks with like trees growing and everything? Like, how much space will there be? Will it be crowded? There's just sort of technological issues where I assume that the early versions won't be so good, and then maybe over time it'll improve. But it's easier to make like nice places to live and do other activities on land than it is on the ocean. There's also just a cost issue, like someone has to pay for all the boats and stuff. I assume the basic idea is that getting away from the governments will be worth it. Like it's not like we're actually running out of land yet, not even close. It's just that if you want to get away from government, then the sea is like one of the main options. And it's a lot easier to live on the sea than on the moon, so there's that. I have not read Sarah Walker. Oh yeah, having your house on a boat so you can move it somewhere else is nice, sure. Oh, this does not appear to be seastead related. Maybe Alan knows about this? No, I don't know ribosome research. Not my area. Yeah, this kind of path forward analysis of what happened is good. I agree with this. I think it's important. Yeah, I said something about this recently. I forgot where. It might not have been public, but people are pretty certain of, say, 2 plus 2 equals 4, but then they see like most of their ideas as like in a totally different category. And you should be trying to build up. They should be a little less certain of 2 plus 2 equals 4. But then for other stuff, they should be trying to actually figure it out to the point where they can be confident, similar to how they're confident with basic arithmetic or with like reading. Like, I'm very, very confident that this is the word hard. That those sequence of dots make the letters HARD, which spells hard, and that I know what the word hard means. You know, I have that kind of reading confidence, and people have that with a variety of basic skills. Like they're good at like walking and balancing and not falling over. You know, they're very confident, very reliable skill, but they need to get that kind of knowledge that's actually like high quality for other stuff and like build up. RSVP seems like kind of hard for Just, and he has a lot of other problems. And he like misunderstands stuff like way too much. Quantum computation is reasonably important. I don't know, like it's hard to know what to compare it to. It's a good field, it should exist, people should work on it. I'm gonna end stream now. I'm probably done for today.